So when you think about ancient Roman religion, what pops into your head? Probably the Colosseum, right? Maybe emperors calling themselves gods, or those huge grand temples. Well, what if I told you that for most Romans, the gods that actually mattered in their day-to-day lives lived somewhere much, much closer to home? In fact, they lived in the kitchen.
And this is where it gets really interesting. You've got this massive disconnect. On one side, you have that big, flashy state religion we all hear about, the public festivals, the political stuff. But for the average Joe in Rome, religion was this deeply personal, daily thing. It was all about family and home. The real spiritual action wasn't happening out in the forum, it was right there, next to the pots and pans.
You see, for almost everybody living in the Roman world, all that grand public religion felt, well, distant. That was for priests and politicians. The faith that really shaped their lives, the one they relied on for actual comfort and protection, was found right where they lived. I mean, that just makes you rethink everything, doesn't it? Forget the giant marble temples for a second. The real, genuine connection to the divine for millions of people was happening right here, on a humble little shelf, probably tucked in the corner of a noisy, bustling Roman kitchen. Okay, so what was this household shrine actually called? It has a specific name, and it is the key to understanding this entire side of Roman life. It's called the Lararium. A lararium was never meant to be some huge, impressive monument. It was personal. It could be anything, really. A fancy little niche carved into the wall in a rich person's house, or literally just a wooden shelf in a tiny apartment. The physical form didn't matter nearly as much as its spiritual purpose. And that purpose was a world away from the public temples. Temples were for state-run shows, for politics. The Lariarium, though, that was for the family. It was woven right into the fabric of daily life, and it was all about the most important thing there is, survival. So, who exactly were the Romans talking to at these shrines? They weren't praying to Jupiter or Mars, not in the same way. No, they were connecting with a very specific and very personal team of spiritual guardians. First up, you have the Lares. Think of these guys as the spiritual security guards for your home. They weren't famous gods from big myths. They were your family's protectors, totally unique to your household. Their whole job was to be the first line of defense against bad luck, sickness, you name it. Then you had the Penates. Now these spirits were all about the pantry. They guarded the food stores, the grain, the family's ability to eat. You have to remember, in a world where a bad harvest could mean starvation, the Penates were absolutely vital. They weren't some abstract idea. They were the guardians of your next meal. Then, finally, there was the genius. This one's a really cool concept. It wasn't a separate god, but more like the divine spark, the life force of the head of the household, the paterfamilias. Honoring the genius was all about honoring the family's lineage and making sure it continued on into the future. So you basically had this whole spiritual A-team living right in your house. The Lares were your protectors. The Penates were your providers. And the genius was your family's future. Altogether, they created this complete spiritual support system for the home. Okay, so knowing who these spirits were is one thing, but how did the Romans actually, interact with them? This wasn't a see you at the temple on Sunday kind of deal. This was a daily commitment. And the daily ritual was super simple. On purpose. You'd pour a little bit of wine. You'd leave a few scraps of food from the family meal, a piece of bread, maybe some fruit. And often you'd burn a pinch of incense, letting the smoke carry your prayers up. No priests needed, no complicated ceremony, just a quiet, consistent little act of devotion. And that simplicity is the whole point, right? This was never about putting on a big show or trying to impress some distant, powerful god. It was about something way more intimate, just maintaining a relationship. It was about showing up every single day to acknowledge the spirits who shared your home. And this idea of a relationship, this brings us to the most human and honestly the most amazing part of the Lariarium. This went way beyond just a religious duty. Because that connection, it ran so much deeper than just leaving out some food and wine. It was a living thing. It was interactive. It was even conversational. I mean, this is just incredible to think about. Romans would actually talk to their household spirits. They'd ask the Lares for protection before they left on a journey. They'd thank the Penates for a good meal. They might even just tell them about their day. It was a real conversation, like you'd have with any other member of the family. And just think about what that gave them. In a really dangerous and unpredictable world,
This daily practice offered a huge amount of psychological comfort. It was a way to feel like you weren't alone, that someone or something was watching over you and your family. The Lararium was an anchor, a source of stability in a very unstable world.
So, what's the big takeaway from this little household shrine? What does it really teach us about ancient Rome that all those grand monuments just can't?
Well, the legacy of the Larium is that it gives us a real window into daily life. The Colosseum tells us a story about imperial power and public spectacle, but the Larium, that tells us about family fears, about hopes for the future, and about the quiet rhythm of an ordinary day.
And that's really the heart of it. For the average Roman, faith wasn't this abstract political thing. It was real, it was domestic, and it was all rooted in the simple, powerful act of just showing up every day for the spirits who looked after their family.
Which kinda leaves us with one last thought. We may not have a Larium in our kitchens anymore, but that human need for comfort, for a sense of protection and stability, that hasn't gone anywhere. So it makes you wonder, what are our household spirits today? What are the little rituals we rely on to feel protected and grounded in our own homes?